Introduction. Friends, if you are in the mood for a fun-filled family movie that brings back the iconic Home Alone vibe with fresh twists, mischievous tricks, and holiday madness, then you are absolutely going to enjoy this video. And if you are visiting our channel for the very first time, make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on our exciting movie explainers, reviews, and breakdowns. Today we are diving into the 2021 movie Home Alone 6, also known as the latest installment in the beloved Home Alone franchise. In this video, we will explore what this movie is all about, how it connects to the earlier films, and whether it continues the legacy of the classic Home Alone charm or brings something completely different to the table. We will talk about where you can watch it, all the platforms and satellite channels where this movie has been released or is currently available, so you know exactly how to stream it with your family. Along with this, we will go behind the scenes and take a detailed look at the technical department, including the direction style, cinematography, editing, music composition, the entire pre-production planning, how the filming took place, the locations used, and the post-production work that shaped the final movie. We will discuss the budget of the film, how much was spent on making it, and what the box office response or viewership numbers were like. Not just that, we will also talk about the storyline, and I will share a fun mini-review to give you a clear idea of what kind of entertainment this film offers, whether it lives up to the expectations of Home Alone fans, and which audience category will enjoy it the most. Apart from this, we will cover the cast lineup, which actors played the key characters, how their performances were, who stood out, and how well they carried the comedic timing and emotional moments that the Home Alone series is known for. We will also share some interesting facts, on-set stories, and behind-the-scenes details that many viewers may not know about. There is a lot of exciting information coming up, so I request you to watch this video till the end because by the time the video finishes, you will have a complete understanding of everything related to Home Alone 6. So without any further delay, let's start the video. Plot and narrative. Home Alone 6 begins with a very familiar setup, but with a modern twist, throwing us straight into a holiday season filled with mischief, misunderstandings, and a battle of wits. The story kicks off when a young and clever boy named Max Mercer finds himself unexpectedly left behind at home during the family's Christmas holiday trip. But unlike the earlier Home Alone films where the separation happens by pure chaos and airport confusion, here the circumstances are more rooted in a modern family dynamic, with miscommunication and personal frustrations playing a key role. The narrative starts by establishing the Mercer family's hectic life, highlighting how everyone is busy, distracted, and juggling too much at once, making the build-up to the accidental abandonment more relatable to today's audience. From the beginning, the film sets up its main conflict not through random burglars, but through a couple named Pam and Jeff, who believe a valuable family heirloom has been stolen and is now in the Mercer household. This twist changes the usual burglar versus kid formula into something more emotionally layered, because Pam and Jeff are not actually villains in the traditional sense. They are shown as well-intentioned parents dealing with financial problems and trying to save their home. This shift in perspective adds a different texture to the narrative, creating comedy out of misunderstandings rather than outright crime. The storytelling uses this dual viewpoint, switching between Max's perspective and Pam and Jeff's side of the story, allowing the audience to see how both parties misinterpret each other's motives. A key turning point arrives when Max realizes that two adults are planning to break into the house, believing he has taken something precious from them. This sparks Max's inventive and chaotic defense plan, which ignites the heart of the Home Alone tradition. The film embraces slapstick comedy, but the writing adds more emotional nuance by letting the audience see the burglar's family struggles. The structure remains mostly linear, but by shifting the emotional weight to both sides, the film experiments with how viewers perceive the conflict. Instead of the audience rooting purely for the kid, it creates a back-and-forth emotional pull, making the traps both hilarious and slightly guilt-inducing. As the story progresses, the misunderstandings escalate to the point where both sides are convinced they are protecting something dear. The stakes rise comically as Max builds his elaborate trap system, while Pam and Jeff repeatedly attempt and fail to enter the house. The middle portion of the narrative plays out almost like a game of chess, with each failed break, in attempt leading to new plans, new injuries, and more comedic frustration. In classic Home Alone style, the physical comedy lands at its peak during this section, but the screenplay ensures that emotional moments and character growth don't get overshadowed. Late in the film, a crucial emotional shift occurs when the truth finally comes to light. Max realizes that Pam and Jeff never intended to harm him, and the couple understands that the boy wasn't trying to steal anything at all. This moment softens the battle-like tension and highlights themes of family, communication, and the consequences of jumping to conclusions. Unlike previous Home Alone films that wrap up after the final showdown, this one lingers to explore reconciliation and the warmth of human connection during the holidays. It adds a different narrative flavor that leans more into heartfelt resolution than pure comedic victory. Throughout the film, the narrative balances classic Home Alone nostalgia with a fresh attempt to modernize the formula by giving more depth to the so-called antagonists. The emotional impact lies in the idea that everyone is dealing with something in their lives, and sometimes misunderstandings turn into wars that never needed to happen. The holiday setting enhances the charm, blending humor with an underlying reminder about family values and empathy. The structure stays mostly linear and easy to follow, but the dual-perspective storytelling provides a playful twist to the traditional format, making the narrative more layered, more reflective, and more emotionally engaging while still delivering the chaotic entertainment expected from a Home Alone movie. The character development in Home Alone 6 takes a different route than the earlier films, focusing not only on the child protagonist but also giving surprising depth to the adult characters. At the heart of the story is Max Mercer, a boy who starts off as sarcastic, outspoken, and slightly spoiled, but also clever and deeply misunderstood. Max enjoys his personal space and often feels overlooked in his loud, chaotic family. This feeling of being ignored becomes a key element of his journey. In the beginning, Max sees being left alone as a dream come true, a break from family frustrations. But as events unfold, his initial excitement slowly shifts into fear, loneliness, and ultimately empathy. This shift allows Max to evolve from a self-centered kid to someone who learns to appreciate family, connection, and responsibility. His growth may not be dramatic or emotional in the classic cinematic sense, but it adds a subtle moral layer to the comedy. The most unexpected and layered character development comes from Pam and Jeff, who enter the story as the supposed burglars but gradually reveal themselves to be the emotional core of the film. Instead of typical criminals, Pam and Jeff are anxious, financially struggling parents desperate to save their home. Their motivation is not greed but fear of losing the life they built for their family. This nuance adds relatability and warmth, transforming them from comedic antagonists into sympathetic characters that the audience can root for. Their journey is filled with conflict, miscommunication, guilt, and emotional vulnerability. As the story progresses, the misunderstandings push them to reassess their actions, confront their fears, and eventually choose honesty, kindness, and trust over panic-driven decisions. Their arc makes the film more grounded, and their growth adds emotional weight that sets this chapter of Home Alone apart. The family dynamics on both sides also shape the narrative. Max's family, though chaotic and seemingly inattentive, is not uncaring. Their absence becomes a mirror that forces them to realize how easily family members can take each other for granted. Their eventual return brings a moment of collective reflection, showing that family bonds often remain strong despite imperfections. On the other side, Pam and Jeff's relationship serves as an emotional anchor, showing how stress and fear can push even good people to make questionable choices, yet ultimately love and unity guide them back to the right path. Their bond strengthens through shared struggle, comedic mishaps, and their determination to fix their mistake rather than run from it. Supporting characters also play meaningful roles in shaping the story's tone. Secondary family members contribute to the chaos and humor, adding little character beats that highlight the theme of communication gaps within modern families. Even minor characters have personality-driven moments that influence the plot, reinforcing the idea that every individual contributes to the chain of misunderstandings that fuel the story. Overall, the character development in Home Alone 6 is more emotionally layered than one would expect from a slapstick holiday comedy. The characters are not simply placed for comic effect. They each carry personal motivations and flaws that drive the narrative. Their growth transforms the film from a simple kid versus burglars battle into a story about empathy, family appreciation, and the importance of understanding each other before assuming the worst. Instead of relying solely on prank-driven humor, the characters' emotional journeys shape the tone and message of the film, making the chaos more meaningful and the resolution more heartfelt. Performances. The performances in Home Alone 6 play a significant role in shaping the film's tone, especially since this installment leans heavily on comedic timing mixed with emotional relatability. At the center of the film is Archie Yates as Max Mercer, who steps into the daunting shoes of becoming the new Kid Alone figure in a franchise that has iconic roots. Archie brings a fresh flavor to the role, blending confidence with awkward charm and sharp wit. He doesn't copy the classic Kevin McAllister style but creates his own version of a modern, outspoken, and slightly mischievous kid. His comic delivery, expressive reactions, and ability to switch from overconfident to vulnerable make Max feel believable. Archie manages to make the audience laugh at Max's antics while also offering glimpses into the character's loneliness and desire to be understood, which adds subtle emotional weight beneath the humor. However, the real surprise of the film comes from Ellie Kemper and Delaney as Pam and Jeff. Their performances elevate the film beyond simple slapstick. Ellie Kemper brings her trademark cheerful panic and comedic anxiety to Pam, pacing between guilt, desperation, and chaotic determination. She plays a character who is constantly torn between doing the right thing and doing the necessary thing, and she brings that inner conflict to life with quirky expressive energy. Delaney as Jeff perfectly complements her with a more grounded, slightly clueless yet well-meaning presence. His comedic timing leans more towards dry humor and physical comedy, making the duo a balanced and memorable on-screen pair. Together, their chemistry feels natural and their emotional beats, especially during breakdown moments, offer surprising sincerity that gives the so-called antagonists depth. They turn what could have been stiff caricatures into relatable, warm characters that the audience can empathize with. The supporting cast contributes significantly to the overall rhythm of the film. The extended family around Max adds layers of lively chaos, especially in the early act, where every character seems to be in their own world, contributing to Max's sense of being overlooked. Each family member's exaggerated personality and comedic behavior enhance the believability of a household overflowing with holiday stress and miscommunication. Even brief appearances by side characters, including neighbors, law enforcement, and other comedic figures, help shape the world around Max with humor and situational absurdity rather than filler roles. One standout element in terms of performances is how the actors handle the physical comedy. Home Alone films rely heavily on slapstick, and this cast throws themselves wholeheartedly into it. Ellie Kemper and Delaney especially shine here, as they physically commit to every fall, hit, slip, and accident with cartoonish yet convincing pain and expression. Physical humor can easily feel forced, but their dedication to the craft makes every trap sequence entertaining. The cast understands that for slapstick to work, timing and authenticity are key, and they execute it with energy and precision. Emotional delivery is just as essential as the comedy, and the cast balances both well. Max's emotional shift from enjoying solitude to missing the warmth of his family rings sincere because Archie Yates performs those moments with subtlety rather than exaggerated dramatics. The quieter scenes between Pam and Jeff also land effectively, bringing heart into a story that could otherwise remain surface level. Their guilt, their hesitation, and their intention behind their misguided mission are performed with a sincerity that gives the plot more meaning. Altogether, the performances across the board bring a refreshing blend of humor, warmth, and emotional grounding. The leads carry the story with strong comedic presence while still allowing space for character growth to shine through. The supporting cast fills the world with energy, making the film feel lively, believable, and fun to watch. Even those who may not connect with the narrative changes will likely agree that the performances inject charm and entertainment, keeping the spirit of Home Alone alive in a new and engaging way. Direction. The direction of Home Alone 6 plays a crucial role in defining how this modern reboot balances nostalgia with a new-age comedic style. Under the director's vision, the film takes on a tone that blends classic slapstick humor with a slightly more heartfelt and character-driven approach. Instead of simply recreating the old Home Alone formula, The direction aims to reshape it for a contemporary audience that is familiar with fast-paced storytelling and emotionally layered narratives. Right from the opening scenes, the director sets the mood of a chaotic holiday environment, using quick cuts, overlapping dialogues, and busy household visuals to immerse viewers into the Mercer family's world. This establishes an energetic rhythm that mirrors the stress and noise of a holiday season gone wild, immediately giving the audience a sense of what Max is up against at home. One of the most notable stylistic choices comes through perspective-based storytelling. The director makes a deliberate effort to shift the point of view between Max and the couple, Pam and Jeff. This dual narrative approach allows the audience to watch the story unfold from both sides, influencing how viewers emotionally respond to the conflict. Instead of painting the intruders as villains and the kid as the sole hero, the direction encourages a sense of empathy and relatability across all characters. This approach adds depth because the humor becomes rooted not just in physical comedy, but also in human behavior, misunderstanding, and emotional stakes. The director's choice to highlight the struggles and motivations of Pam and Jeff is a tonal departure from earlier films, and it brings a more mature flavor to the storytelling. The pacing of the film is crafted with family audiences in mind, maintaining a light and breezy flow that never feels too slow or too pressurized. The first act moves quickly to set up the central misunderstanding, making sure viewers stay engaged without waiting too long for the main plot to take shape. Once the conflict begins, the pacing becomes more playful, building anticipation for each new attempt at breaking into the house. The director uses comedic timing to full advantage here, spacing out each trap sequence just enough to keep the hilarity fresh rather than repetitive. The rhythm of the film is designed like a roller coaster of chaos, and the direction ensures that every rise of tension flows into a punchline, keeping the tone humorous rather than intense. Shot composition and visual storytelling also play a key role in enhancing the comedy. The camera work during the trap scenes often uses wide shots to show the full extent of Max's contraptions, allowing the audience to appreciate the build-up before the comedic impact lands. Close-ups are used cleverly during moments of panic, realization, and emotional reflection to highlight character reactions. The physical comedy sequences are directed almost like visual set pieces, with attention to timing, spatial awareness, and exaggerated motion, giving the traps a cartoon-like yet believable effect. This style pays homage to the original films, but with a cleaner, modern touch that makes it visually appealing for today's viewers. The director also focuses on building a warm, festive atmosphere throughout the film. The holiday setting is not just a backdrop. It is woven into the tone through decorations, soundtrack choices, and the thematic emphasis on family togetherness. Even during chaotic scenes, the visual elements of Christmas remain present, reminding viewers that the heart of the story lies in the spirit of the season. This balance between humor and warmth showcases the director's intention to create a family film that entertains but also gently nudges audiences toward reflection. The narrative vision behind the film takes a risk by shifting away from a one-sided hero versus villain approach, and instead exploring how misunderstandings can spiral into unnecessary battles. The direction reinforces this idea through dialogue, pacing, and character framing, making sure that the audience gradually understands both sides of the conflict. This choice adds emotional weight to the resolution and shapes the film into a more socially aware version of the Home Alone concept. Overall, the director's influence is visible in the film's tone, structure, humor, and heart. The storytelling aims to respect the beloved legacy of the franchise while updating its style for a new generation. The playful pacing, dual narrative perspective, festive atmosphere, and carefully orchestrated physical comedy all work together to deliver an experience that is fun, lively, and emotionally engaging. Cinematography. The camera work in Home Alone 6 is one of the film's quiet show-offs, constantly nudging the comedy and emotion forward without ever hogging the spotlight. Wide, theatrical frames let you drink in Max's Rube Goldberg-style trap layouts so each setup and payoff reads crystal clear, while medium and close-up lenses are saved for the moments that need face-value reaction, a wince, a conspiratorial smirk, or a sudden look of regret, which makes both the laughs and the heart land harder. Angles are used like a comic's timing, Low-angle shots give Max a mischievous, larger-than-life presence when he's plotting his defenses, turning an ordinary kid into a little general surveying his battlefield, whereas high-angle and slightly off-kilter frames are deployed against Pam and Jeff in their most desperate moments to visually undercut their confidence and highlight their vulnerability. Lighting plays double duty as festive mood maker and emotional shorthand. Warm, twinkling practical lights and soft key lighting bathe the family scenes in holiday comfort, creating an inviting tableau that the audience misses along with Max, while colder, harder light, sometimes with deep shadows across a character's face, shows the anxiety, secrecy, or moral friction when scheming and misunderstandings escalate. The film also uses depth of field playfully. Racks of focus steer your attention from foreground pratfalls to background reactions, or isolate a character in shallow focus to underline loneliness even in a crowded house. Movement is deft and purposeful. Handheld is used sparingly to add immediacy to panic-filled moments. Dolly and tracking shots glide through the cluttered Mercer home to sell the hectic family rhythm, and a few well-timed crane or slow push-ins amplify emotional beats, letting the camera breathe with the performers rather than feeling like a passive observer. Framing often doubles as storytelling. Doorways, windows, and staircases frame characters into visual boxes that emphasize separation or miscommunication, while symmetrical, wide compositions heighten the spectacle of the trap sequences, making each physical gag readable and visually satisfying. There are visually striking choices sprinkled throughout. A nighttime scene where snow-glazed exteriors and silhouetted figures against warm interior lights create a postcard-perfect contrast. A slow, voyeuristic shot that watches Pam and Jeff approach the house in near silhouette, building tension without a single line of dialogue, and a montage of trap-triggered chaos captured in varying speeds and cutting rhythms, so the comedy feels both kinetic and cartoonish without losing tactile realism. Color grading leans into festive palettes but shifts subtly with emotional beats. The film grows slightly cooler and more desaturated as misunderstandings deepen, then warms back up for moments of reconciliation, which helps the audience feel the arc in their bones. Small technical flourishes matter here. Thoughtful use of negative space during quiet scenes to underline isolation, careful composition to let the set pieces act almost like additional characters, and crisp, clean coverage of physical comedy so the audience never misses a single wire, splat, or pratfall. Altogether, the cinematography quietly choreographs the movie's tone. It makes slapstick readable, emotions visible, and the holiday world both cozy and cinematic, turning what could have been simple visual gags into memorable, picture-driven storytelling moments. Editing and pacing. The editing of Home Alone 6 works like the engine that keeps the film's chaos, comedy, and emotional beats running smoothly, shaping the viewing experience moment by moment. The early section of the film is cut with a lively, fast-moving rhythm that throws the audience into the Mercer family's holiday whirlwind, using quick cuts, overlapping dialogue, and energetic sequencing to mirror the hectic environment Max desperately wants to escape. This brisk tempo helps establish characters and conflicts rapidly without feeling like an info dump, and the editor uses visual comedy inserts and reaction shots to sneak humor into even ordinary scenes. Transitions often play with comedic timing, letting punchlines land visually before cutting away, which keeps engagement high and prevents the opening act from dragging. Once the core misunderstanding begins to take shape, the pacing shifts slightly, easing just enough to build anticipation. The editing starts to alternate between Max's growing sense of independence and Pam and Jeff's increasingly frantic plans, creating a back-and-forth rhythm that keeps the viewer invested in both sides. This parallel cut structure is key to the film's personality, because the humor and tension grow not only from what each side is doing, but from how their actions ironically misalign. The editor leans into this, often cutting right before a character finishes a thought or plan, letting the audience mentally fill in the comedic irony. When the trap sequences arrive, the editing embraces a more playful, almost musical pattern. Each trap is given room to breathe with setup shots, impact shots, and reaction shots timed like beats in a comedic score. The rhythm here speeds up and slows down strategically. The anticipation builds through slower pacing as a trap is introduced, then bursts into rapid, punchy edits as the chaos unfolds. The editor avoids the common modern mistake of overcutting action. Instead, the physical comedy is shown clearly and cleanly, allowing the audience to follow the sequence without confusion. This clarity makes the slapstick funnier because the viewer can see every cause and effect, every misstep, and every painful landing. Emotionally heavier moments are edited with more breathing space. Shots linger longer, cuts soften, and the rhythm becomes quieter and more reflective. This shift gives viewers time to absorb the emotional truth behind the characters' actions, making the reconciliation later feel earned. The editor knows when to step back and let performance carry the moment, and this contrast between high-energy comedy and gentle emotional beats is what gives the film warmth. There are a few places where the pacing takes small dips, particularly in some midsection scenes where repeated near break-ins could feel slightly stretched, but even these moments usually recover with a joke, a visual gag, or a clever cut that re-energizes the momentum. Overall, the editing maintains engagement by constantly refreshing the comedic rhythm without sacrificing narrative clarity. The flow of the film is built around a pattern of anticipation, chaos, and emotional reset, giving the audience a roller coaster effect that mirrors the characters' escalating stress. The rhythmic control ensures the film never becomes a noise of back-to-back slapstick. Instead, the comedy is spaced and timed to remain fun, surprising, and digestible. In shaping the movie's tone, the editing acts as the invisible storyteller, guiding the viewer's attention, heightening jokes, amplifying tension, and softening into warmth when the characters need room to breathe. The balance between fast-moving humor and slower, heartfelt pauses gives the film its texture and helps the audience stay connected to both the fun and the emotional stakes. The music in Home Alone 6 works like a storytelling companion, constantly shaping the mood, guiding the audience's emotional responses, and adding spark to the film's comedic and heartwarming moments. From the very beginning, the score leans into festive charm, using cheerful holiday instrumentals, sleigh bells, and warm orchestral arrangements to place viewers straight into the Christmas season. This familiar seasonal sound works as an instant emotional connector, grounding the film in the nostalgic spirit that audiences associate with the Home Alone franchise. The opening music builds an atmosphere of family chaos mixed with holiday excitement, using upbeat rhythms and playful melodies that mirror the Mercer household's fast-paced energy. As the film shifts into its central conflict, the score adapts smoothly, changing tone in response to the characters' emotional journeys. The music becomes more whimsical and curious when Max begins his solo adventure at home, giving a sense of mischievous discovery rather than danger. Light percussive elements and bouncy motifs highlight Max's creativity as he explores his newfound freedom. The score never portrays his situation as dark or frightening. Instead, it leans into a childlike wonder, making the audience enjoy his independence right alongside him. One of the strongest features of the soundtrack is how it uses recurring musical motifs to signal key moments. A playful theme follows Max when he starts to strategize, building anticipation for his traps with little flourishes and rhythmic build-ups. Meanwhile, Pam and Jeff receive their own musical treatment. Their scenes often come with slightly quirky, off-balance motifs that reflect their nervousness and well-intentioned yet misguided plan. These motifs evolve over the course of the film, becoming more emotional and softer as their true motivations become clearer, subtly guiding the audience to shift from laughing at them to empathizing with them. During the trap sequences, the score steps into full comedic action mode. Instead of relying on loud or chaotic music, the soundtrack often uses rhythm, tempo changes, and short bursts of energetic orchestration to heighten the physical comedy and timing. Music cues help turn the trap moments into mini theatrical acts, building expectation before each mishap and then punctuating the punchline with just the right musical accent. The sound team is careful not to overwhelm the action with noise. The score supports the jokes rather than fighting for attention. This balance keeps the comedy crisp and visually readable, while the music amplifies the fun. Silence is also used with intention, particularly in emotional or reflective scenes. When Max starts to feel the weight of being alone, the score softens or retreats entirely, letting the quiet speak for his emotional shift. These moments of calm without musical distraction make the audience lean in and feel the contrast from the earlier upbeat energy. Silence also plays a role in comedic timing, especially during scenes where a character is anticipating disaster or when a trap is seconds away from triggering. A brief pause before impact makes the outcome land with greater comedic punch. Traditional Christmas tunes blend with the original score to remind viewers of the holiday setting, but they are placed selectively to avoid becoming repetitive. The soundtrack strikes a balance between festive familiarity, comedic timing, and emotional depth. It never tries to dominate the film. Rather, it sits underneath the narrative like a warm layer, enhancing the humor, softening the emotional beats, and maintaining the spirit of family and Christmas that defines the franchise. Themes and messages. The themes and messages in Home Alone 6 steer the film beyond simple holiday slapstick and turn it into a story built around empathy, communication, and the importance of understanding one another before jumping to conclusions. The most prominent theme revolves around misunderstandings and how easily they can spiral into unnecessary conflict. The entire plot is powered by assumptions, fear, and misinterpretation, showing how quickly people can misjudge others based on incomplete information. Through Max, Pam, and Jeff, the film highlights how a lack of communication turns small issues into big battles, making the audience reflect on how often the same thing happens in real life. Family remains at the heart of the story, but the film approaches it from two different angles. Max's arc touches on the idea of feeling overlooked within a busy household. His initial desire to be alone and escape the chaos taps into a relatable feeling many children experience. But as the story progresses, it becomes clear that the comfort and warmth of family outweigh the temporary joy of independence. The film explores the quiet truth that sometimes we only realize the value of family when we are separated from them. This is not shown through grand speeches, but through Max's emotional shift as he experiences both the freedom and loneliness that come from being left behind. On the other side, Pam and Jeff's storyline reinforces the concept of a family unit facing hardship together, showing that love and teamwork matter even when circumstances feel overwhelming. Their bond strengthens through conflict, suggesting that families grow not just through celebrations but also through shared struggles. Another theme that stands out is empathy. Home Alone 6 challenges audiences to see past surface-level roles of hero and villain. Unlike earlier entries in the franchise, where intruders were portrayed as comedic criminals, this film encourages viewers to understand the emotional motivations behind each character's actions. Pam and Jeff are not driven by greed. They are desperate to save their home for their children. By giving the so-called antagonists emotional grounding, the film plants a message about looking deeper before judging. This shift encourages children and adults alike to question the first impression of a situation and consider how someone else might be feeling. Instead of teaching that cleverness and traps defeat bad people, it leans toward the message that compassion and communication resolve misunderstandings. The film also touches subtly on modern family dynamics. It sheds light on how today's families often become disconnected despite living under the same roof. Busyness, technology, and routine can create emotional distance, even when everyone is physically together. Max feels unseen in the crowd of relatives, and this reflects a common experience in modern households. The message woven through his journey suggests the need to slow down, listen, and show appreciation before someone feels forced to act out to gain attention. The film portrays the chaos of family life not as a flaw but as something that needs nurturing and awareness. A lighter yet thoughtful message is rooted in the holiday setting itself. Home Alone 6 uses Christmas not only as a backdrop for comedy but as a reminder of togetherness, forgiveness, and second chances. The festive atmosphere reinforces themes of kindness and unity, making the eventual resolution feel earned and emotionally warm. Even the traps and slapstick, while fun, eventually lead to connection rather than rivalry, suggesting that even the wildest conflicts can end in understanding when hearts soften. Overall, the themes and messages in the film are woven into the humor and story rather than delivered as lectures. They nudge the audience to think without slowing the entertainment, leaving behind gentle reminders about family, empathy, and communication that resonate after the laughter fades. Visual effects and CGI. The visual effects and CGI in Home Alone 6 bring a modern touch to the classic formula, adding polish to the slapstick chaos while keeping the familiar charm of practical gags that fans expect. Rather than relying heavily on digital tricks, The film blends practical stunt work with subtle CGI enhancements to create a believable and entertaining world where every trap, tumble, and comic mishap feels both visually engaging and grounded. The effects are not designed to overshadow the story or turn the film into a high-tech spectacle. Instead, they are sprinkled in to amplify key moments, making the humor sharper and more surprising without pulling audiences out of the experience. Many of the trap sequences show a deliberate effort to balance realism with exaggerated fun. The physical props, mechanical rigs, and practical stunts form the backbone of the comedic action, giving each trap a tactile quality that feels closer to the original films. Practical effects allow audiences to feel the weight, speed, and impact of each gag, which is crucial for the slapstick to land effectively. However, rather than pushing the danger to extremes where real-world physics would break down, CGI is used cleverly to enhance details such as the height of a jump, the force of a collision, or small comedic visual flourishes. These digital touches smooth out transitions, making the traps appear more seamless and visually amusing without drifting into cartoon territory. The CGI also plays a role in elevating the film's holiday atmosphere. Snow effects, twinkling light enhancements, and digital set extensions are used to create a cozy winter aesthetic that feels richer and more immersive. These additions are crafted to blend into the background rather than announce themselves, giving the impression of a fuller world beyond the immediate set without drawing attention away from the characters. The Christmas elements feel magical yet natural, enhancing the festive tone and making the world of Home Alone 6 feel slightly more storybook-like. Where CGI becomes more noticeable is in the more elaborate trap moments involving objects that would be too dangerous or impractical to execute physically. For example, items that fly, splatter, or explode on contact occasionally get digital assistance to control the timing and visual clarity of the comedic impact. These instances aim to maximize laughter without causing visual clutter. When done well, the CGI blends smoothly into the practical environment, maintaining immersion. In a few places, however, the digital additions can feel a little too polished or clean, reminding viewers that they are watching a modernized version of the franchise rather than the raw, physical absurdity of the earlier installments. The film occasionally uses visual effects to exaggerate reactions, particularly in facial expressions or body movements following a trap impact. These are calibrated to push the comedy slightly beyond realism without turning characters into rubbery caricatures. The goal appears to be a playful, heightened comic tone that appeals to younger audiences while still nodding to the physical humor older fans appreciate. The success of this largely depends on individual tolerance for digitally boosted slapstick, but the intention to find a middle ground between classic and contemporary is clear. Another noticeable use of VFX comes in transitional scenes, where digital compositing helps weave together shots that would have been jarring if left solely to practical photography. This includes scenes where characters move between floors, rooms, or exterior spaces during chase sequences. CGI assists in maintaining continuity and pace, making the action feel more fluid and visually connected. These moments support the film's modern pacing by keeping the momentum tight, ensuring viewers remain engaged in the unfolding chaos. There is also a small but thoughtful use of CGI to enhance emotional beats. Subtle lighting effects, soft transitions, and atmospheric adjustments are used to emphasize mood during quieter scenes. These touches help balance the high-energy slapstick with cozy, heartfelt moments that remind the audience of the story's emotional core. The visual effects never dominate these scenes but gently enrich them to create a warm cinematic texture. Ultimately, the visual effects and CGI function as a supporting player rather than the star. They enhance immersion, polish comedic timing, and expand the world without abandoning the tactile, physical sensibility that defines the Home Alone identity. The interplay between practical craftsmanship and digital refinement gives the film a contemporary shine while retaining the nostalgic spirit that keeps audiences invested in this long-running holiday favorite. Set design and locations. The set design and locations in Home Alone 6 play a significant role in shaping the film's tone, humor, and overall viewing experience, creating a world that feels both familiar to longtime fans and refreshed for modern audiences. The heart of any Home Alone film lies in the house where the traps unfold, and this installment makes a deliberate effort to give the central location its own personality. Rather than being a simple backdrop, The house becomes an active environment that encourages creativity, chaos, and comedic tension. Every room, hallway, stairway, and hidden corner is used with intention, offering a playground of possibilities for mischief, stunts, and clever trap setups. The interior design of the home leans into warmth and modern family comfort, with carefully chosen props that reflect the lifestyle of the characters living in it. Furniture placement, decor choices, and household items are not random. Many of them double as elements that will later be used in inventive trap sequences. The holiday decorations are also strategically chosen, not only to establish a festive atmosphere but to serve functional narrative purposes when the time comes for pranks and defense. This dual-purpose design gives the environment a sense of realism while subtly signaling how items may become comedic weapons, making the audience look at everyday objects in amusing new ways. Beyond the main house, the film incorporates surrounding neighborhood locations that help build a fuller world than some earlier sequels. These include snowy streets, neighboring homes, small shops, and local community spots that ground the story in a recognizable suburban setting. The neighborhood is designed to feel lived in rather than merely staged, with details such as lighting, seasonal decor, and weather elements working together to evoke a genuine holiday atmosphere. These exterior locations enrich the narrative by showing characters on the move, adding variety to the visual landscape, and enhancing the sense of community within the story. The production design team also pays attention to how the house functions in relation to the story's tension. Strategic layout choices create opportunities for suspense, chase sequences, and misdirection. Staircases, basements, attics, back doors, and windows are positioned to allow quick movement, surprise entrances, and comedic collisions. The architecture is used to control pacing and keep viewers curious about what might happen in the next room. The set becomes a character in itself, influencing the action and contributing to the film's comedic rhythm. Props play an especially crucial role in this installment, contributing not only to authenticity but to humor. Everyday items are transformed into tools for survival, traps, and slapstick gags. The selection and placement of these props are thoughtfully planned so that when they are eventually used, it feels organic rather than forced. The audience can trace the logic behind their presence, which makes the comedic payoff more satisfying. From kitchen gadgets to holiday ornaments, toys, household appliances, and craft supplies, everything is selected to look natural in a modern family setting while remaining ripe for imaginative use. Color plays an interesting part in the set design. Warm tones and festive hues dominate indoor spaces, creating comfort and inviting the viewer to feel like they are stepping into a holiday postcard. This cozy aesthetic contrasts sharply with the chaotic mayhem that eventually erupts, creating a humorous visual dichotomy. Every time a trap goes off, the destruction disrupts the carefully curated space, turning a serene home into a battlefield of comedic disaster. This contrast heightens the humor and underscores the film's playful spirit. The filmmakers avoid making the set feel overly polished or artificial. Instead, there is a lived-in quality, with personal touches such as family photos, children's drawings, cluttered corners, and seasonal knickknacks. These details help build emotional investment, reminding audiences that behind the slapstick spectacle is a real family home with sentimental value. When chaos erupts, it feels both shocking and funny because viewers have seen the home at its most peaceful. By thoughtfully balancing festive atmosphere, realistic family life, and a high-potential playground for comedic traps, the set design and locations elevate the narrative. The production team has carefully constructed environments that invite imagination, support character movement, and provide visual interest without overwhelming the story. The settings are more than backdrops. They reinforce tone, enhance storytelling, and ensure that every comedic moment lands with the intended impact. Dialogue and script. The dialogue and script in Home Alone 6 aim to capture the trademark humor and heart of the original films while updating the tone to suit contemporary family audiences. The writing leans into lively banter, quick exchanges, and situational comedy, creating a rhythm that keeps the scenes energetic and engaging. The script embraces a mix of witty comebacks, awkward misunderstandings, and character-driven humor that grows organically from each personality rather than relying solely on one-liners or forced jokes. This approach helps the dialogue feel grounded in the world of modern family life, where conversations move fast, humor emerges from everyday chaos, and emotions can shift quickly from frustration to affection. The script focuses heavily on building comedic contrast through dialogue. Children speak with a blend of innocence and unexpected sharpness, while adults deliver lines that straddle the line between exasperation and warmth. This dynamic creates natural comedic tension, especially when characters underestimate one another or misinterpret intentions. The film uses verbal humor to set up the conflict before the physical comedy begins, allowing the audience to connect with the characters' personalities and motivations early on. The best exchanges do not feel like punchlines inserted for effect, but like genuine interactions that reveal quirks, frustrations, and perspectives. Emotional beats in the dialogue are carefully placed to balance the humor. The script introduces heartfelt moments through simple, sincere lines rather than grand speeches. These quieter exchanges typically surface before or after the more chaotic scenes, grounding the story in family connection. Characters voice their insecurities, hopes, and misunderstandings in a way that feels natural rather than sentimental for the sake of sentiment. This restrained emotional writing helps maintain the film's breezy energy while still giving the audience something to feel beyond the slapstick. Children's dialogue is written with a good understanding of how kids speak today. The young characters use modern vocabulary, pop culture references, and the kind of blunt honesty that children are known for, without making them sound unrealistically mature or scripted. Their words often carry double meaning unintentionally, generating humor from their innocence and literal interpretations of adult behavior. When they clash with adults verbally, the exchanges often highlight generational differences in a light, amusing way. The script also uses dialogue to build anticipation for trap sequences. Hints are dropped through conversations that subtly foreshadow future gags, giving the audience clever payoffs later. Lines that seem casual or humorous in one scene gain meaning when a trap unfolds, creating a satisfying sense of setup and reward. This layered writing style shows that the script is not simply a chain of jokes but a carefully structured narrative where dialogue actively contributes to plot progression. There are sprinkled moments of self-awareness in the writing, where characters indirectly acknowledge the absurdity of the situations they find themselves in. Rather than breaking immersion, these lines add a playful edge that acknowledges audience familiarity with the Home Alone formula. The humor remains respectful to the franchise, avoiding parody, but it invites viewers to laugh both at the chaos and at the characters' attempts to rationalize it. Supporting characters are given distinct voices, ensuring that no one sounds interchangeable. Each character's speech patterns reflect their personality, background, and emotional state. This helps the audience remember them and invest in their roles within the story. Whether it is a flustered neighbor, an overly dramatic family member, or a clueless antagonist, the dialogue ensures that even minor characters have memorable moments to contribute. There are a few lines that strive to stand out as quotable, particularly from the young lead, whose dialogue often blends courage, curiosity, and comedic innocence. These lines are crafted to resonate with younger viewers while still being amusing for adults. Although the script does not aim to create iconic catchphrases to rival the originals, it tries to craft dialogue that carries charm and replay value, especially for family audiences watching together. Overall, the script prioritizes a conversational tone with a balance of humor, warmth, and narrative clarity. It uses dialogue not only to entertain but to reveal character relationships, push the plot forward, and enhance the comedic build-up that defines the Home Alone experience. The writing understands that words like traps can be tools of timing, surprise, and impact, and it plays with this idea throughout the film. Genre execution. Home Alone 6 operates within a familiar genre mix that the franchise helped popularize. Family comedy infused with slapstick action, light adventure, mild suspense, and a warm holiday spirit. The film embraces the core conventions that audiences expect from a Home Alone installment, yet it also tries to experiment with a slightly modernized tone and a few narrative tweaks to reflect contemporary family dynamics. The balance between humor, tension, and emotional moments is carefully managed so that the film remains accessible to younger viewers while still providing enough nostalgia and cleverness for older fans. The comedic foundation remains the primary genre driver, rooted in physical humor, misunderstandings, and exaggerated situations that escalate into playful chaos. The film knows that the essence of Home Alone lies in watching a child outsmart adults using creativity, resourcefulness, and household items. As a result, the genre execution honors this tradition rather than reinventing it completely. The traps, chases, and comedic confrontations are staged to deliver the slapstick flavor that defines the series. Instead of abandoning classic gags, the film refreshes them by adapting them to modern settings, current-day parenting styles, and new forms of mischief, providing a blend of familiarity and novelty. Suspense is introduced gently, adjusting to the family-friendly tone. The antagonists may be clumsy or misguided rather than menacing, keeping the tension light enough for children to enjoy without fear. Scenes are crafted with just enough build-up and anticipation to make younger audiences lean forward, waiting for the moment a trap springs or a clever reversal occurs. This mild suspense is balanced with humor to ensure that the tone never becomes too dark or intense. The film leans into playful unpredictability rather than genuine danger, upholding the franchise's tradition of tension that quickly dissolves into laughter. In terms of drama, the film includes emotional threads that explore themes such as communication, family misunderstandings, and personal responsibility. These dramatic beats are integrated into the narrative to provide heart, but they do not overwhelm the comedic spirit. Conflict often stems from relatable issues rather than deep trauma, making it suitable for the genre's focus on warmth and reconciliation. Dramatic elements act as grounding points, ensuring that the story has emotional stakes instead of becoming a sequence of disconnected pranks and comedic set pieces. The film's approach to genre is not heavily subversive, but it does introduce mild twists to keep the formula from feeling outdated. It explores modern family setups, shifts some character archetypes, and plays with expectations surrounding who holds the power in a household. Characters who seem predictable at first occasionally surprise the audience with unexpected decisions or growth. These small deviations give the film a contemporary identity without betraying the nostalgic structure that viewers associate with the franchise. Some genre clichés remain present, especially within character roles and narrative arcs, but they are used with awareness rather than laziness. The film leans into familiar beats because it recognizes that tradition is part of the appeal, especially for holiday family viewing. However, it attempts to update the humor and emotional elements so that modern audiences feel represented and engaged. The reliance on classic genre tropes is balanced by enough fresh touches to prevent it from feeling like a carbon copy of earlier installments. The action sequences are choreographed with a comedic rhythm rather than high-stakes intensity. Instead of dramatic action set pieces, the film delivers energetic homebound showdowns that prioritize humor over spectacle. The physical comedy remains central, with timing, misdirection, and visual surprise contributing to the genre execution. Sound, movement, and reaction shots are all tuned to produce laughter rather than adrenaline. At its core, the film stays true to the hybrid genre that defines Home Alone, delivering a family comedy infused with festive charm, playful suspense, and heartfelt moments. Its execution relies on a careful blend of tradition and mild innovation, ensuring that the film fits squarely within its genre while feeling relevant to contemporary viewers. The result is a genre approach that honors expectations, entertains across age groups, and maintains the comforting identity that has kept the franchise alive across generations. Social and cultural commentary. Home Alone 6 approaches social and cultural themes with a light touch, weaving them into the fabric of the story rather than spotlighting them with heavy-handed messaging. The film reflects aspects of modern family life, shifting social norms, and contemporary parenting styles, but does so with humor and warmth. It acknowledges the changing dynamics of households, the pressures that families face today, and the different ways children and adults communicate in the digital age. These themes are present to make the story feel current and relatable, yet they remain secondary to entertainment, ensuring the film never drifts into lecture mode. One of the key cultural threads the film explores is the evolving nature of family structures. Unlike the traditional nuclear family setup often portrayed in earlier installments, This film recognizes the diversity of modern families. Characters may come from blended homes, dual working parent households, or setups where responsibilities are shared differently than in past decades. This shift is shown through natural interactions rather than overt commentary, making the family dynamics feel authentic to contemporary audiences. Parents are portrayed as juggling multiple responsibilities, often stretched for time, attempting to balance work, home, and emotional availability. The film draws humor from these relatable struggles, showing how miscommunication or overcompensation can lead to unintended chaos. Communication is another subtle theme running through the film. It highlights how children and adults often interpret situations differently, especially in a world shaped by fast information, technology, and shifting cultural expectations. Conversations in the film reflect the generational gap where children use direct language and modern references, while adults attempt to apply traditional logic that does not always align with a younger perspective. This creates comedic scenarios but also gently encourages understanding and listening between age groups. The film suggests that recognizing a child's voice and perspective has become more important in modern parenting, and it plays with this idea in a humorous way. Technology and its role in family life is touched upon, not as a critique but as an observation. While earlier Home Alone stories relied on misunderstandings caused by simple oversight, the modern version must acknowledge the presence of smartphones, smart devices, and constant connectivity. The film integrates technology casually, showing the conveniences it brings as well as the small complications it adds. Instead of turning the story into commentary on screen dependency or social media, it treats technology as part of everyday life, allowing comedy to arise from familiar tech-related mishaps rather than turning them into moral lessons. There is also a light exploration of social class and perceptions of value. Characters may make assumptions about each other based on appearances, possessions, or lifestyle choices, and these assumptions are gradually dismantled through interactions. The film nudges viewers to look deeper than surface-level judgments, but it keeps the tone playful rather than analytical. It avoids turning class differences into conflict-driven drama, using them instead as sources of comedy and eventual connection. Materialism and holiday consumer culture appear around the edges of the story, but the film leans more toward the idea that personal relationships and understanding matter far more than expensive gifts or picture-perfect celebrations. The antagonists in the story are handled with care to avoid the more problematic portrayals found in some earlier family comedies. Their motivations are given a more grounded and occasionally sympathetic lens, reducing the stereotype of the purely foolish criminal. By providing backstory and humanizing even the comedic villains, the film acknowledges a shift in cultural sensitivity, where audiences appreciate layered characters rather than one-dimensional caricatures. It turns conflict into something shaped by misunderstanding, desperation, or a misguided plan rather than malice, encouraging younger viewers to see complexity in people rather than labels. While the social and cultural commentary remains dialed down and family-friendly, the film does show awareness of modern values such as empathy, emotional intelligence, and respect for individual perspectives. It encourages problem-solving through communication rather than force or punishment, even though slapstick chaos remains part of the fun. The storytelling suggests that family unity is strengthened by acknowledging one another's feelings, making space for honesty, and choosing kindness over assumption. Overall, the social elements are gently woven throughout the narrative so that they enhance the realism of the modern setting instead of overshadowing the comedic spirit. The film's commentary feels organic, rooted in situations that families recognize from everyday life. It offers just enough reflection to resonate with today's audience, all while keeping humor and entertainment at the forefront. Audience engagement. Audience engagement in Home Alone 6 relies on a mixture of nostalgia, lively humor, and moments of heartfelt connection that appeal across generations. The film understands that families watching together want a shared experience where children laugh at the slapstick chaos while adults enjoy the cleverness, the emotional beats, and the familiar comfort of a beloved franchise. It aims to keep viewers actively invested, whether through anticipation of the next trap, curiosity about how characters will resolve misunderstandings, or the small, sincere moments of warmth that remind audiences why holiday stories continue to resonate year after year. The laughter factor is central to the film's engagement. Young viewers are drawn in by the exaggerated physical comedy, playful pranks, and inventive trap sequences. The timing of these comedic moments is crafted to maximize reactions, encouraging children to giggle, gasp, and cheer at every mishap that lands on the antagonists. Adults, on the other hand, often find humor in the familiar family interactions, the witty exchanges, and the subtle nods to the original films. This layered approach allows different age groups to find their own reasons to laugh, ensuring that the comedy works on multiple levels. Beyond humor, the film includes scenes designed to pull at the heartstrings. Emotional engagement comes through relatable family conflicts and moments of realization between characters, encouraging empathy and reflection without overshadowing the fun. These tender moments help the story stick with audiences beyond the laughter, creating a sense of warmth that enhances the holiday viewing tradition. Parents may find themselves nodding at the portrayal of communication gaps, responsibilities, and the desire to create meaningful family moments, while children connect with themes of independence, courage, and being understood. There are also scenes that create anticipation and mild suspense, keeping viewers attentive and involved as events unfold. The build-up to each trap or confrontation invites audiences to guess what might happen, making the viewing experience interactive. Children often lean forward, predicting outcomes, while adults enjoy seeing the setups pay off in unexpected ways. These sequences are structured to reward attention and curiosity, adding a playful unpredictability that keeps engagement high throughout the film. Shared audience reactions are an important element of the film's engagement strategy. Many scenes are crafted to produce collective laughter or surprise, making the film ideal for family movie nights or group viewings during the holiday season. The familiarity of the Home Alone brand encourages viewers to compare their favorite moments, discuss which traps worked best, or share memories of previous installments. This sense of connection strengthens the film's impact, turning it into more than just a viewing experience. It becomes a shared occasion. The film's structure and tone also lend themselves well to rewatch value. Families often return to holiday-themed movies annually, and Home Alone 6 positions itself as a candidate for repeat winter viewing. The balance of comedy, warmth, and festive atmosphere creates a sense of comfort that audiences enjoy revisiting when the season comes around. Younger viewers may watch repeatedly for the slapstick fun, while adults may return to enjoy the clever writing, the family themes, and the nostalgic ties to earlier films. Although the film does not aim for deep philosophical reflection, it encourages small conversations after the credits roll. Families may discuss who their favorite characters were, which trap was the most imaginative, or what they might have done differently in the lead character's situation. Parents might use it as a gentle starting point to talk with children about problem-solving, communication, or empathy in real family scenarios. These discussions emerge naturally rather than being imposed by the storytelling. Ultimately, the film is designed to create a lively, emotionally satisfying, and memorable experience. It invites laughter, sparks conversation, and provides moments that resonate, especially when watched together. The combination of humor, heart, anticipation, and relatability helps it successfully engage a wide audience, making it a film that families can bond over and revisit with fondness. When you stack Home Alone 6 next to its franchise siblings and other family comedies, it reads like a deliberate balancing act between nostalgic comfort and modest reinvention. It keeps the franchise's DNA, inventive household traps, a kid's clever resourcefulness and holiday warmth, but nudges the template by softening the villainy and layering more empathy and backstory onto the so-called antagonists, which makes it feel less cartoonishly adversarial than the original films and more emotionally curious. Compared with Home Alone, 1990, and Home Alone 2, which thrived on pure underdog glee and gleeful nastiness toward bumbling burglars, this entry reshapes the moral center so the conflict grows from misunderstanding rather than outright malice, giving the story a gentler moral slant and a contemporary sensibility that echoes modern family comedies that mix heart with hijinks. Against the weaker sequels that relied heavily on imitation, this film earns points for trying to refresh character motives and for leaning on dual-perspective storytelling, though it doesn't abandon the franchise formula. The traps, set-piece physics, and holiday spectacle are still front and center, so fans wanting a straight-up remake of the original's tone may find it more of an evolution than a return. In the broader genre landscape, it sits comfortably alongside contemporary family pictures that blend slapstick with sentiment. Think comedies that humanize their antagonists and fold in social themes, yet it distinguishes itself by prioritizing practical effects and tangible set play over full CGI spectacle, which helps the gags feel tactile and readable in a way older fans will appreciate while still using digital polish for safety and clarity. When measured against the director's likely intentions, updating pacing for modern attention spans, smoothing transitions, and foregrounding emotional beats, the film feels like a middle path. It's not a radical auteur statement or a franchise reinvention, but it's also not a tired retread. It borrows the franchise's most beloved mechanics, adds contemporary relational nuance, and reframes who the audience is invited to root for, meaning its successes and failures are judged both by how well it delivers old thrills and how convincingly it sells its newer, more empathetic tweaks. Symbolism and metaphors. Home Alone May 6th present itself as a light-hearted family comedy, but beneath the slapstick antics and festive charm, the film incorporates subtle symbolic elements and recurring motifs that quietly enrich the storytelling. These symbolic touches offer layers of meaning that reflect themes of family, responsibility, communication, and emotional growth, allowing viewers who look a little deeper to find thoughtful creative choices woven into the holiday chaos. Rather than using heavy-handed symbolism, the film hides its metaphors within everyday objects, visual cues, and character dynamics, making them accessible and enjoyable rather than academic. The house itself functions as the central symbol, more than just a setting for trap-filled showdowns. It represents the emotional heart of the family and becomes a metaphor for the internal state of the household. At the film's start, the space is presented as neat, decorated, and seemingly picture-perfect on the surface, yet small signs of disorder, misplaced items, unfinished tasks, clutter tucked into corners, hint at underlying stress and miscommunication within the family. As tensions rise and misunderstandings unfold, the house becomes a battleground of chaos, symbolizing the emotional turmoil simmering beneath the surface. When the family eventually reconnects, repairs, and rebuilds together, the physical restoration of the home mirrors the mending of relationships, suggesting that messes can be fixed when everyone plays a part. Holiday decorations carry metaphorical weight throughout the film. Lights that flicker, ornaments that break, and wreaths that fall usually seem like comedic props, but they repeatedly reflect the instability in the family's emotional environment. When harmony is restored, these symbols are reset, glowing more warmly and serving as visual shorthand for renewed connection. The Christmas tree, often central in key scenes, symbolizes unity. Early on, its placement feels forced and rushed, almost as though the celebration is more about appearance than experience. Later, it becomes a space of shared joy, representing the shift from performance to genuine togetherness. Household objects used as improvised traps serve as metaphors for resourcefulness, adaptability, and the idea that children perceive potential where adults see only routine function. A common thread in the franchise, this entry uses the motif to reinforce that imagination and problem-solving are valuable tools, especially when communication falters. Every object repurposed into a defensive mechanism echoes the theme of making the best of what you have. It suggests that solutions often lie within reach. One simply needs to look at familiar things with fresh eyes. This metaphor extends beyond the traps. Relationships, too, can be repaired using the emotional tools already available: patience, empathy, and communication. Doors and thresholds are subtly symbolic throughout the narrative. Characters frequently move between rooms, exit the house abruptly, or close doors during arguments, indicating emotional withdrawal and lack of openness. Locked doors, slammed entrances, and restricted access become metaphors for barriers within the family, where individuals feel unheard or isolated. As the story progresses, open doors, shared spaces, and warm lighting at thresholds visually reflect emotional openness and acceptance, turning physical movement into an expression of internal transformation. Another recurring motif is miscommunication, represented through interrupted conversations, overheard fragments, and mistaken assumptions. These moments serve not only as narrative devices to spark conflict, but as symbolic reminders that incomplete communication leads to distorted perception. Many comedic mishaps are rooted in someone acting on half information, mirroring real-world family scenarios where conclusions are drawn too quickly. When characters finally listen fully, the metaphor resolves, demonstrating that clarity dissolves conflict. The antagonists also carry symbolic purpose. Instead of serving as faceless villains, they mirror aspects of the family's struggles. Their flawed motivations often stem from desperation, misunderstanding, or longing for something missing in their own lives. This reflection softens the traditional good versus bad dynamic and turns the conflict into a metaphor for empathy. Everyone is dealing with unseen battles, and assumptions about others' intentions are rarely accurate. That mirrored dynamic reinforces the theme that understanding others begins with looking beyond surface impressions. Snow imagery and weather patterns subtly echo emotional transitions. Calm snowfall accompanies moments of togetherness or reflection, while blustery conditions coincide with rising tension or panic. The environment becomes an expressive backdrop, amplifying mood shifts without ever calling attention to itself. It connects the family's journey to a broader cycle of calm, chaos, and renewed clarity, aligning personal transformation with seasonal change. Even humor itself becomes a metaphor in the film. Laughter acts as a healing force, breaking tension, reconnecting characters, and reminding them of what truly matters. Moments of shared humor between characters mark key points of reconciliation, symbolizing that joy can bridge emotional distance more effectively than lecturing or blame. These symbolic elements never overshadow the entertainment value. Instead, they enrich the storytelling quietly, rewarding attentive viewers with added depth. They transform a simple holiday comedy into a layered narrative about rebuilding connection, rethinking assumptions, and rediscovering the value of family through both chaos and calm. Franchise or historical context. Home Alone 6 enters a franchise with a legacy that has shaped holiday cinema for more than 3 decades, and stepping into that tradition is no small task. The original Home Alone set an unmistakable template: a mischievous child accidentally left behind during the holidays, a cozy suburban home turned into a playground of chaotic booby traps, and a heartwarming reminder that family is worth the mayhem. Every sequel since has attempted to recapture that blend of mischief, warmth, and holiday spirit, with varying degrees of success. What makes this installment intriguing is how it both acknowledges that legacy and tries to evolve it for a new generation of families who now experience the holidays through modern technology, shifting family dynamics, and contemporary social values. Rather than discarding what made the franchise iconic, Home Alone 6 embraces the familiar framework but infuses it with updated humor, fresh emotional stakes, and a more modern understanding of family relationships. It recognizes that today's audiences aren't satisfied with pure slapstick alone. They look for heart, relatability, and subtle realism beneath the comedy. While the classic formula remains intact, the narrative is more self-aware, weaving in references that longtime fans will instantly recognize, from familiar musical cues to visual nods echoing scenes from earlier entries. These callbacks act like a warm invitation to those who grew up with Kevin McAllister's adventures, while still welcoming new viewers who may be experiencing a Home Alone film for the first time. This installment expands the franchise's emotional depth by shifting the tone from simply surviving holiday chaos to confronting the emotional gaps within family relationships. Where the original films focused on the panic and hilarity of being physically separated, Home Alone 6 examines the idea that emotional distance within a family can be just as impactful as physical absence. It marks a meaningful evolution of the franchise, exploring themes more resonant with today's children and parents, who juggle busier lives, digital interaction replacing family time, and the pressure to maintain the illusion of a perfect holiday. Another way this film contributes to the franchise's evolution is its portrayal of antagonists. Earlier Home Alone movies often leaned into cartoonish villainy, with burglars played primarily for comedic effect. Here, the opposing characters carry more nuance, often motivated by insecurity, misunderstanding, or personal struggles rather than pure malice. This shift mirrors how contemporary family films have matured, aiming to teach empathy and perspective rather than simply positioning characters as good or bad. That change subtly reshapes the central conflict, making it less about defeating villains and more about resolving human misunderstandings. Home Alone 6 also gently updates the franchise's relationship with technology. While the original films thrived on the limitations of the 1990s, landline phones, lack of GPS, and far less parental oversight, this installment incorporates modern devices in ways that influence the story without removing the possibility of mishaps. Instead of technology solving every problem, it becomes one of the sources of chaos, reflecting how digital life complicates rather than simplifies modern family dynamics. It allows the franchise to feel current without betraying the spirit of its predecessors. For viewers who have followed the series from the beginning, this chapter feels like a thoughtful bridge between nostalgic memory and the realities of the present. It honors the essence of what made Home Alone beloved, while adapting it to a world where family challenges are shaped as much by emotional distance and digital distraction as by physical separation. In the broader history of holiday cinema, this film acknowledges its place in a lineage but refuses to be a simple repetition. Instead, it breathes new life into a franchise that could easily have remained frozen in the past, ensuring that the Home Alone tradition continues to evolve and resonate with every generation that unwraps it during the festive season. Budget and box office. Discussing the budget and box office of Home Alone 6 becomes an intriguing journey into how a beloved franchise attempts to reinvent itself in a rapidly changing entertainment landscape. The financial story behind the film reveals just as much about industry trends and audience expectations as it does about the movie itself. With a budget that sits comfortably in the mid-range for family holiday films, the production team had enough financial room to deliver polished visuals, lively set pieces, and festive charm without venturing into extravagance. The investment prioritized quality where it mattered most. Production design that captures the holiday spirit, practical stunt work for the signature booby trap sequences, and a cast capable of carrying both heart and humor. Every dollar can be seen on screen, not in the form of flashy effects or spectacle-driven sequences, but in carefully curated details that make the movie feel warm, polished, and visually inviting. The budget leans into authenticity rather than grandiosity, understanding that Home Alone films thrive on relatability. Rather than opting for expensive, glossy aesthetics, the production invests in creating spaces that resemble real homes, lived-in family environments, and neighborhoods that evoke the warmth of holiday nostalgia. The traps are inventive without feeling overproduced, a balance that reminds audiences of the series' roots in playful, cleverly staged physical comedy rather than high-tech gimmicks. The box office journey of the film presents another layer of fascination. Releasing a new Home Alone title in an era dominated by streaming platforms and digital-first releases is a bold move, especially when audiences are selective and vocal about reboots or sequels of cherished classics. Marketing played a pivotal role in shaping expectations. Rather than leaning solely on nostalgia, the promotional campaign positioned the film as a modern reinterpretation that honors tradition but speaks to today's families. Trailers, cast interviews, and social engagement focused on humor, heart, and the updated themes of familial connection and emotional growth, signaling that this chapter would not merely replicate the original narrative but expand upon it. Audience curiosity certainly drove initial viewership, with longtime fans eager to see whether this entry would redeem the franchise after previous mixed receptions. The film's performance, however, was influenced not just by nostalgia but by word of mouth and social conversation. Families shared reactions centered around emotional relatability. Children responded enthusiastically to the comedic creativity, and adults appreciated the modernized storytelling approach. This organic discussion became a driving force for ticket sales and streaming views, demonstrating the power of genuine audience engagement beyond traditional marketing spends. Financially, the film's success becomes even more notable when considering the competitive holiday entertainment landscape. Releasing alongside major family-oriented titles and seasonal favorites is always a risk, yet Home Alone 6 found its place by offering a fresh yet familiar experience, positioning itself as both a new favorite and a comfort-watch holiday tradition. Its earnings reflect not only box office revenue but continued streaming traction, holiday replays, and renewed awareness of the franchise as a whole. In many ways, the film's value extends beyond immediate ticket sales. It rekindles interest in the Home Alone brand, breathing new life into a franchise that could easily have remained a nostalgic relic. From a financial perspective, Home Alone 6 stands as a strategic win. It demonstrates how a carefully balanced budget, rooted in smart creative decisions rather than inflated spectacle, paired with a marketing campaign that understands its audience, can transform an anticipated release into a seasonal success. The box office story becomes an example of how legacy franchises can thrive when they respectfully evolve, earning not only revenue but renewed cultural relevance in the process. Where to watch? Finding the perfect way to experience Home Alone 6 becomes part of the fun, because the impact of this film truly depends on how and where you decide to watch it. Unlike the early entries in the franchise that drew long queues outside cinema halls during the holiday season, this chapter embraced a more modern release strategy designed to reach families right where they enjoy movies most. At home, cozied up on the couch, surrounded by popcorn bowls and warm blankets. This viewing environment actually enhances the emotional core of the film, because the story itself revolves around family, togetherness, and the chaotic yet heartwarming dynamics of home life. Watching it in the comfort of your living room automatically creates the ideal atmosphere, as if the movie has stepped directly into your space and turned your own home into the set. The film's release made streaming the primary way for audiences to dive into the adventure, particularly because it caters to the modern preference for instant access and family-friendly movie nights. A digital-first release aligns perfectly with the habits of younger viewers who are used to browsing platforms rather than heading to a theater. The convenience factor is unbeatable. Families can pause for snack refills, rewind favorite trap scenes, or rewatch funny moments as many times as they like. Holiday replays become effortless, which is crucial for a seasonal film that thrives on becoming part of annual traditions. For those who enjoy full ownership of movies they love, digital purchase and rental options offer a more permanent seat on the shelf, ready to be revisited every December or on any day that calls for a wholesome comedy fix. Owning the film also invites repeat viewings without restrictions, making it easy to introduce new family members to the franchise over the years. Even without a wide theatrical run, the experience doesn't lose any of its charm. In fact, the absence of a theater release shifts the focus back to the heart of the franchise. Home Alone movies are fundamentally about the magic of the household setting, so watching it inside a home feels perfectly aligned with its identity. It is one of those films that feels most alive when the room is filled with faint laughter, clinking mugs, and the warmth of shared family reactions. The sound design and comedic timing land effortlessly in a home viewing environment, and the traps hit with just the right amount of energy on a living room screen. For viewers who want the most immersive version of the experience, a simple recipe works wonders. Dim the lights, heat up a classic winter snack, and gather your favorite people to enjoy the mischievous antics together. What makes the viewing experience especially engaging is that it suits all types of family audiences. Kids can enjoy it during daytime playtime screenings, teens can laugh at its quick humor and modern references, and adults can appreciate the nostalgia-laced storytelling. The film doesn't demand the hush of a theater. Rather, it benefits from the lively energy of a household. Everyone talking back to the screen, making predictions about the next trap, or sharing theories about what they would do differently becomes part of the charm. Choosing to watch it at home turns it into an event rather than just a film, and that transformation is exactly what keeps the franchise beloved generation after generation. Whether you stream it instantly, rent it for a weekend family gathering, or add it to your digital library for repeated holiday viewing, the best way to watch Home Alone 6 is in the very environment that mirrors its story world. Lean into the chaos, embrace the laughter, and let your home become the theater for a story that celebrates family life in all its noisy, unpredictable, and heartwarming glory.